Hey there, this is Stephanie. I want to make a video specifically about Venus conjunct Pluto in the natal chart. Um, I thought I would share it here on my INFJ channel because it's already here and set up. Um, I don't feel I really have anything new to say. There's so many amazing astrologers on YouTube to describe this aspect, so I'm not really here to describe it per se, but I do want to share a bit about my experience with it briefly and also share some poetry. And I'm planning on posting some other videos of poetry that I think other people with this aspect specifically can probably relate to. I just watched an amazing video about this aspect, probably my favorite, well, actually, my favorite video about this aspect that I've ever seen. And I will link it in the description. I believe that his channel is called AT Astrology. He's really, really good, and he also has this aspect, and it's so interesting that so he has a bunch of videos that are, titled different aspects, and when I saw the one that said Venus conjunct Pluto, I clicked on it, and I'd seen other videos he shared about moon signs, so I was already familiar with his face and his energy. But when I clicked on that video, he came up, and I immediately felt it. I felt that energy from him, and I just was like, he obviously has that aspect, and he does. So I thought that was really cool, and I think that Venus in Scorpio is very intuitive, and there's a lot of guttural feelings and perceptions that come subconsciously and unconsciously especially with Pluto being so close to Venus there. And I love how in his video he used the word guttural, because that's probably one of the best words. There's a couple keywords that come to mind with this aspect for me, aside from the obvious possessive, obsessive, all of that. It also, I feel, guttural and visceral and devotional and chaos, but with focus in this weird way. It's like this internal storm that really is there, and it's ringing. And so before I share my writing today, I want to speak into a little bit more reflection of his video. And I just, it was so validating to hear him, everything he was saying, and specifically when he spoke about how, as a young person, these people with this aspect can get kind of imprinted with this feeling of chaos and crisis linked to love and family. And I definitely relate to that. And it's subconscious, right? So it's I'm given an opportunity now, with, I guess, in general, but also with one person in particular. Like yesterday, I had this really amazing opportunity to see myself and feel into this part of me, and it's very humbling. And part of what I think makes the Venus in Scorpio, Venus conjunct Pluto, really such a powerful placement is that it's really hell bent on transformation at any price, at all costs. And that can really scare a lot of people away, and especially if it's being not really handled with equanimity or a lot of self-containment and awareness to transcend the lower vibe that can bring, or even transcend the childhood imprinting of I need to suffer in order to love, or I need to get to some kind of dramatic end point in order to go to the next level of who I am. If that's kind of unconscious in the moment, it can come out toward our partners and people that we're close to, or a desire. That's the hot button word here is desire. It becomes this really intense thing that can combust or destroy. And knowing that we don't need to destroy it, we don't need to destroy things necessarily. we don't need to be destroyed always, but we do. It's like we do need it, and it's gonna happen. But it's how do we be okay? You know, like how do we be okay? I think that's like such a good way of putting it. Um, because like people will be into us and be so drawn to things about us, and like this intensity. We have this like special thing going on that is very attractive to people. It feels very powerful. It feels very mysterious, and it's amazing. And it's also like how if they were inside us, it's like there's so much riding on everything we do. There's so much internal like pressure, and if we really desire something, or someone's really gotten to a core desire and like spiritual longing for union and like connection and these like really intimate, like amazing things and feelings and experiences, it becomes dangerous territory for us in our own minds to be okay, to have space and like care and gentleness and thoughtfulness and tact and social acceptable like appropriateness with our intensity. It's a little bit of a tightrope at times, and um, what I'll say is that even though we struggle in this way with this balance and with this feeling of like ultimateness in the things that do really grab us in the heart, it's we do struggle, and it can mess up our relationships if we're not acknowledging that and being aware and being able to notice or even take feedback if we didn't notice, but notice when we're creating drama or creating pain and suffering and over exaggerating when we feel hurt or betrayed, like this person spoke of in his video. I really related to that yesterday, actually. And but even though all of that happens and it can be really like messy, it's also like we do have a gift with it, and with that intensity comes a great well of ability to be devoted fully, committed fully, leaving no drop left like perspirated, like leaving nothing behind. We have such a gift to use that for transformation. So I'm trying to work on consciously working with this within myself and not needing to like create it on the outside with other people. And I'm doing a lot better at it. I'm not perfect, but it's like spoke with someone yesterday, and it was really refreshing to be able to like be witnessed with some of this intensity and be able to see it more objectively, and like also be like, wow, like that's really vulnerable for someone to see, and I feel really dumb, and like I just probably like ruined this connection I have, and maybe I did, I don't know yet, but it's like I can't always be so afraid of showing who I am, that I'm so guarded that everything's just bubbling and gurgling, and I'm like, I need to please that person, I need to not be this way, and I need to make sure that like everything's on track and I'm not being too much or too this. It's like there has to be a balance with that. And yesterday I felt like I was off balance, but I think it was just building up, and I felt hurt about something, and it's hard for us to feel like really good and then feel a sense of like loss or betrayal, which is natural in human life, but that's not what happened. But there was an energy that was being triggered for me around that, and so it's really challenging. But here I am, and I'm a beautiful person. I care a lot. I am really wanting to have a way of expressing and channeling this Venus Pluto energy for like for no purpose, not like an agenda, but just in the sense of beingness and authenticity and having an outlet for it. So I've been dancing a lot. Um, I've been painting again, which is cool, and I've been writing. The writing is really like what helps me, being a Gemini moon, which gets a lot of like flack in the astrology community, but this is how I was born. So all I can do is deal with the negative aspects of that placement and strive to be good to myself with it. That's another topic for another time. But so the Gemini moon really wants to talk all the time, and we really need to talk to understand our feelings. And it's very frustrating for me personally with this Venus and Scorpio kind of like wants to be secretive or guarded or wordless and more really feel stuff. And then this Gemini moon is like da, 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 and very surface. And I don't even mean surface as in like doesn't give a crap about stuff. Like obviously I do, but it's very at odds with this Venus and Scorpio energy. It's totally different. It's very makes it challenging to feel a lot of this deep, intense pain and really be with the deeper truth of situations, because my moon sign wants to like hyper analyze and cogitate and talk and kind of disseminate information, where I would rather just be able to sit with it and have like discernment with what I say more. And like it's just a struggle that it does hurt me, or it's felt like it's hurt me in relationships with people, because the moon and Venus are very much tied to our intimacy and our self intimacy first, but also moon, sun, Mars, and Venus are like our personal planets. So it's like been challenging. And I have moon in seventh, I have Chiron in seventh, so there's a lot of this like warring. I've got a lot of things square my moon, and there's just a lot of this inner tension. And so when I'm being triggered or I'm being forced with like having to discern a situation with someone of like, what did they mean by that? Is that like them kind of, are their actions showing me they're not trustworthy or not caring? And sometimes that's been true, obviously, and sometimes it's not. So it's like, it's just dicey for me, and that's why it's like I have to like go through things, and I'm committed to receiving them. And I really feel like all these relationships that Venus and Scorpio people are in, any kind of relationship, it is very transformational. So before I talk anymore, this is something that I wrote the other day, and just came to me after I wrote it. I felt into how it reminds me of some things that Pema Chodron talks about, being when everything's stripped away and you're left with this groundlessness, like your whole identity is gone. And I really so much, like, she's such a magnificent person, and she's helped me so much listening to her. And so that's kind of coming through in this, of like, this piece is really about like heartbreaks that obviously aren't really heartbreaks. They're just openings and portals to the next thing. And they're little deaths of transforming into something new. And so that's kind of the theme of this. And then toward the end, it sort of weaves into this kind of play of the elements, and how like really we belong, or I feel really I belong to the elements of like earth and spirit, and that I am greater than the sum of these like human interactions and like sticky feelings and different things that come with being alive in a human form. So I hope you enjoy it, and please feel free to comment and share on anything I've spoke about, and stay tuned for other other poetry offerings. It's just something that I'm not used to sharing verbally. I know I did years and years ago here. And that was cool to like have that received. And so I am just feeling that call. Like my poetry work isn't, it's just something that I do for fun, obviously, but it's like something that I feel is meant to be heard rather than read. So yeah, this is my channel, so I'm not going to feel bad about sharing, and you don't have to listen, obviously, if you don't want to. So this is just what I have been feeling into. All right. Navigating around obstacles that give me false direction. Heartbreaks that have caused me to befriend shallow attention. I wait. Fissures in this foundation, blessed release of ground. Staring into unknown darkness, mirrored glass falling all around me, space shattering. I weep internally with wonder at the ultimate gravity of being sensitive and alive, both restricted by time and ephemeral. Glowing like lightning bugs in a jar, wept with me, they begin to blink, both ignited and diminished, faced in the face with my humanity. Out of ashes do I walk as free woman and free man, both within me, blazed to carry, hand in hand, the windows and the waves, crashed for another day, to say, I know nothing, and it's complete. Open up the cellar darkness, up from soil comes its riches, like mulled wine to mull over silently, yet so vibrantly hold me in your blessed gate. In Father Time does I unfurl in me, unveiled and yet unseen, the light, the dark, the whole of me. Father Time and Mother Whisperer, wheel me in to know myself as a sister of the waves and of the soil, in the air, and of the fire's boil. Boil me down till nothing's left, taken with my very last breath. Grace for reverence, nothing else remains, except the will for another reign. Friction me not a bit too long, yet please not any shorter than my one life's song. Kiss me now, for as I wait, my seed in darkness germinates. Fecundity and lightning rods, my home, my grave, my way to God. So I also found it interesting that I believe Venus and Uranus are conjunct right now, or they're going to be conjunct like Friday through Monday, something like that. And that feels very Uranus Pluto kind of energy. So that piece, I just feel like it's like a snapshot of the way that Venus and Scorpio goes through heartbreak and goes through these transformations through pain and darkness, and not even darkness in the sense of like evil or sadness, or like it's also about the darkness that's like existing between organs, and like the darkness that exists between knowing and not knowing, the darkness that's like so deep that you're not seeing it. And it sounds so like basic to say, but I think that's really indicative of Pluto energy. Like it's so dark and it has this hum, but it's like this very powerful magnet that there's not a lot of ways to like work with it without totally being consumed, because that's what it does. It consumes, it takes, it wants to strip away. It wants to strip away all the masks and the layers and the clothes and every boundary there is. It wants to eat it up and like spit out nothing but a little seed of the next evolution or what have you. So that's how I feel, in the last lines of that poem, being like the fecundity of that dark yin black soil, and the lightning rod of like spirit and inspiration, and that tower of change there's no returning to. So no big deal, right? Like just some light writing, like, and that's the thing about this energy, is that's the way that we are. And it can be tempered, obviously. There's a lot of other things going on in someone's chart. It can be the more you grow and evolve and age, like I'm in my Saturn return right now, and I'm feeling so much better and more conscious of this stuff and this energy, and very, very grateful for that. But this energy is like what we walk around with, and like especially in intimate relationships that are closer than simply like friendships or things where there's less desire and less fire and less heat and less like real true deeper seeing and merging. It's like tricky because we don't want to overwhelm or consume, but then it'll come out. It'll just come out. And it's like, how do you say, okay, I love myself. I'm not going to shame myself for that. There is a purpose in that energy. There is a need for this energy somewhere in the universe. So, how can I, with grace and humility, bow to that moment and move forward? And I think that it's like, no wonder our relationships are intense. They're going to be intense, and that's just the way they are. And I find that the more I own that and am not afraid of being seen in it, not in a like showy way, not in a way of like, I'm just gonna tell them this and I'm just gonna like I guess be inappropriately whatever. I'm not saying that. I mean that obviously happens and you don't want it to, but what I'm more getting at is when I with courage, humility and empowerment say I'm going to say what I feel right now, or like I'm going to give this amount of myself in this moment with my deeper truth or feeling. The more that I'm doing that lately, it's being received so well, and I'm feeling happier. I'm feeling less constricted and repressed. I've got a lot of Libra in my chart. There's a lot of Saturn in the first house, square everything. There's a lot of this like, ooh, I need to like really step right. And I think discernment and wanting to craft an excellent life and craft healthy relationships with self and others is like incredible. I mean, I'm grateful that that's the positive side of that kind of energy, but the negative side is it's just, I feel like there's certain things that have been outworn now. Being in Saturn return in the first house, it's like I do feel this refreshing evolution of change and yeah, just new cleansing. And so yeah, so I hope that if you have Venus and Scorpio, well, not I hope, but I wonder if you relate to that writing and feeling like my home is also my grave, and it's also my vehicle for transformation. It's also where I find God. And so I just want to say a shout out to I forget his name now, but the person's video I saw, because it really touched me today and fueled my kind of the things that have been stirring in me. Last night I was thinking about this stuff, and then this morning I got to see that video, and it was like so well timed. I also got to see his Gemini moon video, which was great. I laughed a lot, and there's a lot of it that's painfully true, but we can only do what we have. We're born into these bodies in the chart that we have, and we all, I think, are tasked with the ability and responsibility, if we choose to take things higher and take things into a place of real, I guess, exalting or excellence. And that can sometimes only come through a lot of like dirt and grit and pain and having to learn the hard way. And yeah, so I hope that this was entertaining for you. If you're interested, I'm going to have some other videos of my writing. So yeah, thank you for listening.